Hello, I'm Howard Molesky, and I am here with my friend Diana Conrad. As former heart surgery patients and charter members of Bellingham's Mended Heart chapter, we'd like to take a few minutes to talk to you about your upcoming surgery. Unfortunately, we can't be here in person today to answer any questions you may have, nor to assist the office staff by escorting you over to the hospital to visit with cardio rehab and to complete required chest x-rays and lab work. Through this video, we hope to accomplish some of what we would share with you in person of our experiences from both the patient and the volunteer perspective. Before we start, however, Diana is going to give us a brief overview of Mended Hearts and our Bellingham chapter. Diana?
Thanks, Howard. Mended Hearts is a national nonprofit support group for heart patients and their families. It was founded in 1951 and has 365 chapters, working with more than 460 hospitals, averaging over 200,000 visits per year. We received the Bellingham chapter's charter in October 2012. Over the years, Mended Hearts has built a great relationship with St. Joseph's Hospital. Each year, the Mended Hearts organization votes on the top hospitals in the region and the country. I'm very proud to let you know that St. Joseph Hospital has been awarded the top regional hospital 3 times and the top national hospital in 2018, something to feel really good about. So, Howard, do you mind sharing when you had your surgery and what you had done?
Not at all, Diana. I had my surgery on March the 5th, 2012, right here at PeaceHealth, St. Joseph's Hospital. My superhero surgical team replaced my aortic valve and made necessary repairs to my mitral valve. Interestingly, I remember when my wife and I were here for what I refer to as my information overload pre-op appointment day, just as our friends watching here today are going through. Now, I know your surgery is a little bit different in the circumstances around it, so could you relate your experience to us?
I had a minor heart attack and an emergency quadruple bypass on December 7th, 2002. Since my surgery was an emergency, I didn't have the benefits of having the information a patient gets during a pre-op. It would have been a lot less scary, and I would have been much better prepared if I had. But enough about us. You may be interested to know that the first heart surgery performed here at PeaceHealth was in July 1994. And since then, the surgical staff has averaged 21 heart surgeries a month. That's over 6,500 surgeries.
And speaking of numbers, Diana, we began assisting the surgery office with their pre-op patient appointments in 2013 and cover about 100 appointments a year. As both heart patients and volunteers, Diana and I have compiled what we feel is important information to share with you. This will include questions we are frequently asked, the importance of the often overlooked caregiver, some helpful hints, and some final thoughts.
Thanks, Howard. Before we begin with some of our questions, unfortunately, we don't know your names, and so we hope you'll forgive us if we refer to you as patient and caregiver. So, Howard, what is recovery like, and how long did it take for you?
Recovery is a question that I know I get a lot with pre-op patients, and they want to know obviously what it's like after the surgery and whatnot. And unfortunately, it's really hard to answer that because it's so different for everybody.
Yeah.
And one thing I can say is that in my case, and I think in most cases in follow-up, it's not as bad as what you thought it was going to be. Not saying that it was easy, but it wasn't as bad. And the only other real answer you give, it's so different for everybody. Some people have other underlying health conditions going in, therefore it makes it a little bit more difficult. But I think I can safely say for most patients, including myself, like I had my surgery on Monday morning. I almost went home on Thursday. I was out of the hospital by noon Friday. Went home, took a shower, took a nap, went for a little walk, and the recovery process began. Now that is common for most patients. Unfortunately for some, it does take a little bit longer. But how did you feel about your recovery?
I think I agree with you, Howard. I felt like I was tired at first, really tired when I first got home, and it was a challenge to get up and move around and do things, but managed to do it. And I agree with you, too, that for each patient it might be different, but I think maybe you and I are more of the norm along those lines.
Yeah, it's surprising how normal, the word normal you use, that most people are normal, but there are, like anything else in life, there are exceptions. But one thing I find is very helpful is to set reasonable goals. You know, when you get home, if, say for example, if you like to play golf, try and figure out, 6 weeks down the road that maybe you can go out just with your putter or something. Go for a walk in the golf course. If you're a gardener, look forward to getting in the garden, but set reasonable goals. And thing I tell patients a lot is the worst thing to do is go home and do nothing. The important thing is to keep moving and to hydrate. Make sure you're taking enough water. And not overdo it, because guilty of overdoing it. But yeah, be reasonable about setting goals and looking after yourself and listening to what the doctors advise, the medical staff. You mentioned earlier also the tiredness, and I did find that I was much more tired than I thought I was going to be. But something else that caught me off guard was the emotional level. My emotions peaked for quite a long time, especially when I saw my grandkids, situations like that. And it kind of caught me off guard, but I've since learned it's not unusual. And did you experience any emotional highs or lows? Or?
I think one of the things that struck me first was that I was a little bit angry that this had happened to me.
Yes, I agree.
I couldn't understand. I was a perfectly healthy person. I exercised, I ate well. Why was I getting a heart attack and having surgery? And I think it took a little while for just to accept that. And once I did, then I think you accept it and you move on, and you start to look forward to the things that you're going to be doing. And I think that's one of the most important things to think about. But I do agree that sometimes people can be affected by this more than others. But if you run into a situation where you continue to have this feeling of anxiety or depression, then go talk to your doctor about it, because there are some ways that you can be helped with that.
Depression, unfortunately, is something that occurs in roughly a third of all heart surgery patients. And I'm not a medical or psychological professional to understand why, but we know it happens, and I think we need to urge our pre-op patients to be aware of that and to seek help if they feel like they are depressed.
Yes, try not to have any surprises.
And then one other question I get a lot, the recovery is one and the follow-up, but pain. They're always worried about the pain. And I don't know about you, but I can safely say that during surgery, nothing. Follow-up surgery, again, it's like recovery. It's different for everybody. Now, personally, I have a high pain tolerance, but I was never in pain. Was I uncomfortable? Yes, but not so uncomfortable that I couldn't sleep at night or what have you. And I got off the pain medication as soon as I could. But again, it's difficult to answer that question for people because everybody's a little bit different. So I can, like I say, during surgery, there's roughly 32 hours of my life I don't remember because I went in for surgery at 7 a.m. I had my last final thought roughly maybe 10 to 7 in the morning. And my next memory I have, even to this day, is 2 o'clock Tuesday afternoon. And everything in between is gone. How is your pain tolerance?
I think very similar. I think I took the pain medication as they told me to take it. And I felt some discomfort, but I never really felt any real pain.
The often overlooked caregiver, so important.
I absolutely agree. I think they're the biggest unsung hero of this surgery.
Yep. You can talk about the surgeon, all the backup staff and everything else, but I know for a fact that my surgery was harder on my wife than it was on me. And I've seen this through the years, helping pre-op patients, working with the patient and the caregiver, and it's the caregivers that are generally asking all the questions, and you can see they're more concerned. So, and as humans, we work hard to be a caregiver, and we forget about ourselves as a caregiver, and we need to look after, the caregiver has to look after themselves and make sure they try and keep focus of what's going on.
I agree. And I think there's some suggestions we can make for caregivers that might help just a little bit. And one of those I think is really important is, because you're going to be on information overload, make a list of the questions you have that for your doctor, for the nurse, for whoever, and make sure you keep that list with you all the time. Leave some space so you can write in the answers, because you're going to refer back to those things later. With so much information coming all at one time, it's really hard to take it all in. Do you think?
Two things my wife brought up as my caregiver, obviously, was that, and I found it really helpful. She took charge of my post-op medications, because at first there's a lot of medications and you have to take at certain times. So she made a chart for me, which was really helpful, because I don't know if I could have handled it. But I know her biggest concern was that, she wants all caregivers to know, if you're fortunate enough to see, or if you have the ability to see the patient immediately after surgery in ICU, be prepared to see a huge bevy of specialized equipment hooked up to the patient.
Yeah.
Hoses, tubes, machines clicking, making noise, and the patient is not going to be coherent. But I know, visiting patients following surgery, you walk in and there is a lot of equipment, but each piece has its purpose, and it by the hour, if not, at least by the day, if not by the hour, each piece of that equipment is slowly removed. It's served its purpose, but it can be a shock if you aren't aware at first.
Yeah, I agree, and you're right. You're getting closer to going home when you have the least amount of things hooked up to you. And I also think that it's important for caregivers to make sure you get a break, because you're going to be exhausted. You're going to be worried about your patient. You're going to be trying to take care of them every moment of the day, and you forget about yourself. So please make sure you take a break. Get in some of your family members or friends to stay with your patient so you can get away, even just take a walk, go outside, get some fresh air. But remember to take care of yourself, because if you can't take care of you, you're not going to be able to take care of your patient either.
I think that's great information.
Yeah. So Howard, we're down to the helpful hints section here. What would be one of the best things that you would tell them to do?
Cardio rehab. I cannot stress cardio rehab enough. The staff from cardio rehab normally will talk to you before surgery and following surgery, but cardio rehab facility is in the hospital. It is there for heart patients only. While you're in rehab, you're with your peer group, and it is so important. And the reason I say that is, it's obviously important for your heart, but I found it important for this organ up here, for mental stability, because you know where you're at. If you have the ability to go run a marathon, you can do it. If you have limits, you know what they are. But it's just peace of mind is what I found.
I completely agree with that. In fact, I still go to cardiac rehab.
That's right, you do, and others in our group do too that had surgery years ago. Isn't that right? Yeah.
Yes, I go 2 days a week. Actually, we can go 3 days a week. And I'm with a group of people who are in the same position I'm in. So we don't have to be slim and trim and gorgeous and beautiful. We're just there because we're heart patients helping each other exercise. And it's amazing the amount of support you get from fellow heart patients as you're trying to do your exercises. Mm-hmm. So I completely agree. It's one of the most important things that a patient can do to start to feel better faster. It's the best absolute thing you can do.
It is. And another thing I found after I got home was my recliner was my best friend. I just found it so much comfortable than laying flat in a bed. We discussed pain earlier, and we concluded that for a lot of people there's no pain, but there was some uncomfort, and that uncomfort came from laying flat in a bed. Yeah. The surgical incision would be stretched, and it wouldn't hurt, but it'd be uncomfortable enough it was hard to fall asleep, but I'd sleep very comfortably in my recliner. So for about maybe a week and a half after I got home, that's where I'd spend my nights, because you're bent over and you're not putting the stress on there. And I've heard from a lot of other patients, they found the same thing.
Yeah, I found that the solution for me was to use a wedge pillow in my bed.
Oh, okay.
So that gave me a slight incline,
Yep.
and I didn't feel like I was stretching my chest. And so that was really great. And then when finally, for those of you who are side sleepers, when you get the go-ahead to sleep on your side, a nice long pillow will help you have some support up against your chest, and you can sleep very, very comfortably that way.
Yep. I never thought about the wedge pillow idea, but the recliner worked. You know, on pillows, I can remember making sure that when I did this even when my wife and I drove home from the hospital, the heart pillow you get from the hospital, I stuck it in between me and the seat belt. This is so much more uncomfortable. I mean, seat belts serve a purpose, but if you have to hit the brakes, I can't imagine what it'd feel like having that shoulder strap over that incision. So that heart pillow came in handy for more than just sentimental reasons. It was actually served a practical purpose.
Yeah, I think
Because every time we go out and about, I actually, at a time period following heart surgery, I look forward to going to the grocery store. And I got better, it didn't last, but I remember making trips like that. I'd make sure I had that heart pillow inside that shoulder strap.
Yeah, it's really a good suggestion. I think another too is the hospital will give you a heart hugger. So if you have to sneeze or cough, it's great to be able to hold that up against your chest, so it'll give you some support, so you won't feel any pressure against your chest.
You know, and we mentioned earlier that to keep active when you get home and to go for walks, but and this happened to a friend of mine, but it's highly advisable if you go for a walk, especially by yourself, take your cell phone with you. A friend of mine he had a heart attack while on a walk, and if he hadn't had a cell phone with him, I mean, this wasn't a post-op deal, but it was a but he had a cell phone with him when he was out for a walk, suffered a heart attack, and if he hadn't had his phone with him, he would have been in serious trouble. But so when you go home from surgery, it's kind of the same idea, but if you're going to go for a walk and by yourself, take your phone with you. And when you take those first few walks, don't be discouraged by you can't go very far. I know I was. First walk I took out the driveway, which isn't very long, hung a left, got to the neighbor's driveway, and I thought, wow, I still got to go home. And I haven't walked very far, but you know, it's good to walk, but make sure, always remember, you have to turn around and head home eventually.
Yeah, and I think too, putting some goals for the kind of exercise you want to do is a good thing, but we shouldn't overdo them, because you can end up hurting yourself if you do. And I think if you're going for a walk, like you said, or if you're just sitting in your home, it's important to stay hydrated. And the more fluids you can drink, I think it's extremely important to do that as well.
Yep. And I think overall is listen to the medical advice when you're discharged. And this is where the caregiver has to be paying attention.
Yes.
Because the patient is not that alert, but to take the medical advice seriously as to what to do during that recovery period when you're at home. And if you feel like something is not right, don't be afraid to call the doctor or to even call 911. I mean, we hope it doesn't come to that, but don't be afraid to ask for help from the medical professionals.
No, I think it's very important, and I don't think you can overstate the importance of if there's really something that doesn't feel right, and it's very odd, don't be afraid to call 911. I really agree with that too.
Okay.
Well, I think we're just about ready for some final thoughts and things. What do you think?
I think so too. I know our friends here want to get on to their day. Like I said earlier, it's information overload day for them. So, okay, to summarize, Diana, I think I got a few points, and I know you have some too, but my glass is always half full, and I think thinking positive both before surgery and after surgery, it works. I think you have to go into it, and I think, I mentioned earlier it's okay to be nervous and not be afraid, and I haven't met anybody yet that has been nervous, but I think if you go into this with the right attitude, you're going to be okay. Everybody in the surgery office is eager to help. And they're all there to help you, and they've been doing this for years. So don't be afraid to ask a lot of questions. And then one last thing I'd like to mention is that for those of you doing your pre-op today, feel free to contact either Diana or I by phone. The office staff has our information, or if you would like to have us call you, you can leave that information available to the staff and they'll get a hold of us, and we'd be happy to call and talk to you on the phone either before surgery or following surgery.
I remember one of the surgeons here in the office talking to a patient one day, and the surgeon said, "Look, I've done hundreds of these surgeries, but I haven't got a clue. I don't know what it feels like to go through this. But these volunteers, they know what it's like to go through this. So make sure you ask them lots of questions." I think there's one thing that I would really like to share with you, maybe two things. From the moment you walked into this door in the surgery office until you come back here again about 2 weeks after your surgery, you're going to be taken care of by the best people anywhere that I can think of. And both Howard and I speak from experience for that. From the receptionist at this desk, to the nurse who helps you, to the PA, to your surgeons, to the people in the hospital, you're going to get the very best care you can possibly get. And I think from my own personal closing comments for this, Howard and I are volunteers for a reason that for each of us is very personal. And I think going through this surgery, it makes all of us fully aware of what life is like and the opportunity we're being given to have even more life. And so for me, being able to talk with you is one of the most important things I do at this point in my life, because I want to give something back to the people who have given me an opportunity to be here to talk to you. What do you think, Howard?
I've always said, and very simply, that why I do this, it's all pay it back, pay it forward. Pay it back to what I now consider my family in the surgical office. Everybody from the nurses, the support staff, to the surgeons, they're all family now. And they are busy people. And to pay it forward to future heart patients, because very simply, it's a been there, done that thing.
Yes.
And through the years, I figured out one day, I've had 10 different surgeries in my life, everything from tonsils to the heart surgery. And the heart surgery was the most nervous going in, but it wasn't the hardest coming out. Try rehabbing a knee for a year. But yeah, just pay it back, pay it forward. And volunteering is fun. It's a feel-good, fun thing to do.
It is. I absolutely agree.
And it's just that I love the surgical office staff. I love the people on the 4th floor where you recover after surgery, and they all do an excellent job, and it's anything we do to help them.
So please understand that both Howard and I wish you the very, very best with your surgery. And thank you for letting us be part of your day-to-day. We know it's been a long one, and we're glad that we could be part of it. Right, Howard?
Yes, we certainly are, Diana. And I, too, thank you for letting us share our information with you.